I got to call into a meeting right now.
All right, well, thank you everybody for attending this webinar today. Today we're going to look into the great world of SchoolsNEXT program. My name is Craig Ferdine. I'm the immediate past president of the Alaska chapter of A4LE. A4LE is happy to present this webinar and to provide this great information. We have other webinars coming up later this year, and I'll cover that here at the end about what our next webinar is. But my job here is to introduce Garrett and let him get going. But first off, before we get to that point, I'd like to introduce our sponsors for the year. These are our Platinum and Gold chapter sponsors for the year. Without their help, we couldn't provide you with this outstanding information. We appreciate all of our sponsors and those who support the A4LE. Now, Garrett Burtner is a principal here at McCool Carlson Green, which is located here in Anchorage, Alaska. He has been an outstanding supporter of SchoolsNEXT, and we're really excited about this webinar. But I also wanted to give a big thanks to McCool Carlson Green Architects, and particularly Michael Carlson and Jason Gamache, who also are members of McCool Carlson Green. They have been stalwart supporters and cornerstones of this program for well over a decade. So we wanted to, in general, thank them and Garrett for their support and all their efforts on this great program. And without further ado, I'm going to hand this over to Garrett.
Great. Thanks, Craig. I'm going to find my button. So thanks, everybody, for joining. It's really my pleasure to share a few things about the SchoolsNEXT program. This is just an overview of what I'm going to talk about. The purpose of this is to try to get people excited about this program and get them involved, because it's really a unique and I think a really high quality program for middle schoolers to get them engaged in design and in something that's super relevant to their world, since they spend a lot of their time in schools without generally having any sort of agency over what those schools are like. So first off, just an overview of and I'm going to go through this and leave time for questions at the end, and then we'll have a kind of text. There's this text function with WebEx that you can type in questions at the end. You can type them in during, but I'm probably going to blast through, and then we can have a conversation at the end. So SchoolsNEXT, a program created by the A4LE, is a planning and design competition. It focuses on sustainability, and it's a middle school age program, which is a really vital age for just coming into your own with skills and critical thinking, while having a lot of creativity still fresh. It's the submittal requirements for the competition. It's an annual competition, and the submittal requirements are quite academically rigorous, while also, I think, providing a lot of latitude for creativity. There is a narrative portion. They require a physical model, which often is really the fun part, a lot of the fun of it, and they would encourage you to use recycled materials for that model. You back it up with drawings, other diagrams, information, and then there's a video component. which is fun to see, and a live jury presentation. So it really hits on a lot of the things that professionals, I think, have to navigate in their work all the time. The students' entries are judged at a state level, so it's Alaska level if you're in Alaska, or provincial level in Canada. And then there's a regional, for those that win at state, there's a regional level. And for those that win in their region, international, and there's this opportunity for the winning teams at both regional and international level to attend the conference and present. And having been at several of those conferences, and I'm sure others on the meeting have been, you know that this is really a highlight of the conference for the delegates, because the students are just so awesome and energetic, and bring a lot of fresh ideas. So like I said, I encourage everybody to get involved, and there's lots of ways you can get involved in the program. You can be a mentor of a team you might join up with a list of mentors with your chapter of A4LE, and then be contacted by a team that's forming as a mentor. Or you can take the helm and go out and start your own team. Or if you're not, know the time or the interest in starting your own team, just spread the word to people who are educators. Reach out to your local schools or the schools of your kids, and let them know about this program, that it exists. It is a free program to participate in, and a lot of the information, really all the information you need, is on their website. It's very easy to get in there and navigate it. This slide shows the timeline of the competition. It's designed around both the school year, so it starts with sort of just before the start of the school year in August, and it's key to allow the submissions to come in before regional conference, and for the regional level, and then before the international conference, to have that all wrapped up. So the bulk of the work is that first term, that fall term, with the crunch time, deadline time being in the after the holidays there. And I can tell you from experience that just like in the profession, 75% of the work happens in 25% of the time. So as I mentioned, there are really good resources available for people running or assisting with these teams. If you go on the A4LE website, and there's a tab at the top that says Programs, hit that tab, you'll see SchoolsNEXT. It'll get you to a landing page where they have all these things. And the curriculum is quite extensive, and I think, I'm not an educator, so I don't really know what to compare it to, but it's got a lot of components to it. This is the table of contents, and there's actually I think it comes in 3 or 4 PDFs that you download, and this captures all those things. So there's worksheets in there, there's lessons for students to read, there's guidance for mentors and teachers in that curriculum. Because when you get into this program, you'll see that it's really a microcosm of the design professions, the planning and design professions. And so there's a lot to impart in a short amount of time to a group of people that have never maybe thought about a lot of this stuff, or even were aware. And that kind of leads me to how I got involved. Well, for years I got to see the fruits of the labor of all these students at conferences. When my kids became middle school age, it dawned on me that this was my moment to try to get a team going in Alaska. And it used to be that, I don't know, 10 years ago, there was quite a run of Alaskan teams that were sort of dominant in this program when it was called School of the Future. And then probably because the people that were, spearheading that moved on. It sort of slacked off a bit, but I decided to try to put a team together. And the school that my kids go to is this Anchorage Stream Academy, which is a pretty fascinating school in its own right. Although it's a physical plant, its facility is a basic lease space in a university building for the Baptist University in East Anchorage. So the space is functional, but not necessarily inspiring. Although they do have a outdoor focus at the school, and they back up to a large park, so that's a big plus. So how is this going to work? Well, my entree to starting a team, because it didn't seem that I was going to get a teacher to do a whole class on this with this as the curriculum at this point in the year, I instead suggested that I start an after-school club. And they do clubs at this school. You can do them on regular school days, but I picked Wednesday because they have an early release Wednesday at Stream. They get out at noon, and I was driving, to pick the kids up anyway, so I thought, well, I'll go over at noon, and then we'll spend a couple hours working on this. So we started an architecture club, and with the intent to do the SchoolsNEXT competition. And I got about, a dozen kids to sign up initially. And I was a little scared because I was going to have, a dozen middle schoolers in a room by myself for 2 hours a week and trying to do this ambitious curriculum. But luckily, another architect who's a board member at the school, Caroline Storm, she took pity on me and stepped in and helped me. And her son was part of the team, and then my son, who's in the picture, was part of the team. And so that worked better because even though she and I were both kind of newbies at this, we helped each other, back each other up. So that was the logistics part, was working with the school to create a club, getting all the permissions signed, etc., and then getting the kids in the room. And then what do you do? How do you start? So the way I started was I started with favorite buildings. So I wanted to see what their interest level was in architecture or knowledge level. And so I asked all the students to bring their favorite buildings, and I looked at YouTube videos about those buildings mostly, and then showed them YouTube videos and talked about that. And we talked about what architects do in the profession, planners, and we started to get into design through some pretty abstract exercises. Some of them we pulled out of the curriculum, and some of them we invented on the fly. Like this one that Jasper's working on is a kind of three-dimensional diagramming exercise that uses a module. And I told them, a module is a repeatable unit in design that could be a piece of a building, or it could be an element of the building. And you're going to rearrange these pieces as many ways as you can think of, and then you're going to draw that arrangement in this grid. So they were doing sort of a diagramming exercise and a three-dimensional exercise simultaneously, which was fun. And I had them in teams, pairs, doing that, which was also important because they had to find out a way to get these kids to start to gel and be a team working together. So after some of that weeks of the introduction, we kind of got down to business and started brainstorming, and we did that through traditional means, just talking, listing things that they thought should be in a school, issues that were important to them in school, things they didn't like about their school, things they liked. And I did some note-taking and diagramming to get them, into it. And because they're an outdoor-focused program, they ended up landing on this, I thought it was a pretty brilliant idea of a distributed school campus that is based in sort of biomes. So they would be on one large site, but a site, in this case, it's the far north Bicentennial Park in Anchorage, which is a very large park that backs up to the Chugach Mountains. They would be on that park, and they could be on these different biomes within that site. And they would design portions of their school for the different biomes, and then they could study at those places. So it was a cool concept. This picture is another activity we did called Game Plan, which is actually a game that my colleague Evelyn and I invented when we were doing some research into gamification. We decided we would try to gamify school planning, and so we came up with this sort of basic game activity. And I got to deploy it on a couple groups of adults at conferences, which was fun. But using it with the middle schoolers was actually more productive. They were more creative, and it was pretty cool. We used modeling, physical modeling, and hand drawing, and we also used SketchUp modeling. None of these students had ever used SketchUp. It is a pretty accessible program. One lesson learned was with this school district in Anchorage, get your request for software in like months ahead of time, because it had to go through all their processes, and it was kind of burdensome. But we did get it, and they did some fun stuff in SketchUp to capture their different areas of their program. So we're working in multi-modes throughout this. The next few slides, it's really the last part, are all the slides that the kids made, or some of the slides that the kids made to describe their project. So this is their work condensed. So in the site, you can see they're in this spot here in Anchorage, East Anchorage. Here's the Chugach Mountains. And the idea was to integrate the school into this giant park. And they had these site criteria, which is how we eventually came to this location. We made this kind of startling looking site model. That was, because it was such a huge site and we were distributed, it doesn't look like most of the models that you see for SchoolsNEXT. Our buildings are these tiny little bricks, and the model is all about the network. So it's really a network idea, this project, not so much a building idea, although they did get into some building particulars. And they have these different locations. The home base, the idea was then there that at the center of the network was home base. All the students could come to that and meet and have their assemblies, share their work with each other, share their work with families. There was a floating water-based campus, which included the dormitories. So this is a boarding school concept. Part of the reason to make a boarding school was that as a charter, it's sort of a magnet, and a lot of the students are coming from some distance away in the community. So they liked the idea that they wouldn't have to commute every day, that they could be on-site resident. There was a forest base, which got to play with sort of treehouse classrooms in the trees, smaller collaboration spaces in the trees, and of course you're working in the forest, or the forest, and studying the forest ecology and things in that base. And then the mountain base, which looks like something out of a James Bond movie. Be pretty cool. It was a semi-subterranean laboratory with a telescope, and it was wind powered, and it's very exciting. Farm base was down in the plains, and that was, really, there was going to be an ag program at this school. They were going to raise animals and raise food, and and be self-sustaining as much as they could with their school lunches, all their meals, because they'd be resident. So that's the project we did, and that's what I have to share on Schools Next, but we do have plenty of time for questions. So if you have a question, you've got this chat window to type in, and I'll see it there.
So Garrett, I've got a question for you. Are homeschoolers able to participate? Can they create a team, or do they have to be part of the school?
Oh yeah, it's a good question. Can homeschool students form a team? I believe so. I don't think that you have to. I think it's the restriction is age-based or grade-based, not school-based.
What were those ages?
They're grades 6 through 8, so middle school grades. Although I did read some conflicting literature when I was looking at this stuff. I read somewhere that it was K through 12, but I hadn't remembered seeing any teams that were other than middle school. And then I read again today on the website, their A4LE's homepage, that it's middle school.
Okay.
So as far as I know, it's still just 6 through 8.
Can you guys hear me? Hello? Anybody?
Robert. Oh, we got Robert asking if I'm sharing a screen. Yes, we are. Sorry, I didn't see that earlier, Robert.
Another question that I've got is, so you mentioned that you met 2 hours a week. Did you mean 2 hours? Is that 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday? Or was that, how many days a week did you guys meet?
Right. We just met Wednesdays at noon, so we were meeting 2 hours, and there was about an hour of that where you could get them focused on doing something, and there was a lot of like kids just playing on their screens and computers and listening to music, and so I had to sort of adjust to that, like get out of my dad mode and get more into the I'm a fun educator mode, because that kind of stuff doesn't really fly with me with my kids, but it was great, yeah. And so there's a question. Let me scroll up a little bit. How much time do teams typically spend on these design competitions? It is pretty time intensive. We were working from the beginning of school until, I want to say it was until March, when our regional deadline was. Every week, 2 hours. We did a couple work sessions, additional work sessions, towards in crunch time. So the models can be really time consuming. We finally, when we were making the video, that went pretty quick because we had one student who really took on that video technical side of it, and then he ended up being a great leader, and he was collecting audio. We used the iPhone to record voice memos and then send the voice memos, and put them into iMovie on the computer. And so I was worried about that because I never made an iMovie. So it was good because I didn't have to parachute them out of that situation. They just applied their skills and went to it. But yeah, it is time consuming. I think the teams that get to do this as a class definitely have an advantage because there's a lot of work to do, or potentially a lot of work to do. We had to do maybe a slight abbreviated version of it. Scott asked how we can spread the word to get Alaska teams going. Well, there's this webinar. I think we just really, people just need to contact their schools and let them know of its existence. And I think that the A4LE board is in the process of doing some direct outreach to middle schools in the south central part of Alaska. It seems like we should be able to get a package that would get out to all middle schools in the state. I mean, that would be a good way to do outreach. We'll just send them get them on, look at the website, seeing the videos of the past winners. That's one of the most exciting parts about getting on the website. Sienna asks, are there qualifications required to become a mentor or a team leader? No, I don't think there's any qualifications other than your enthusiasm to do it. You do need to find the venue in terms of what school you're working with, and I know teachers are often the ones who instigate these teams, and then usually it's engineers and architects that are kind of queued up to be the mentor side of that. My team was a little different because I started the club and I was the mentor and the team leader, and there was no layer of school leadership. I mean, they supported us to be sure, but I didn't have a person, that was on that.
Within the Anchorage School District, if you have a child in the school, you don't have to go through a background check. But if you are a mentor who does not have a child in the Anchorage School District, you have to go through a background check with the Anchorage Police Department before they will let you do mentoring in the school.
Okay.
It's a really quick process. They basically just run your social security number. I studied math tutoring for some schools.
I think
it's a very quick
now
process.
that you mention that, I think they had me do that when I started the club. Because even if you have a child, I think it's just better safe than sorry. So good. Is there a deliberation team or judging panel? Yes, there is a judging panel. Those panels are convened at the state level. They're convened by the state chapter, and it's usually a couple people that they choose. I don't know, 2 or 3 judges, and then at the regional level, they're convened by the regional chapter leadership. When we did our presentation to the regional judges, there were 2 that traveled to Anchorage to see the presentation of our team, and we did that in my office here. And so it was someone from Juneau and someone from BC that traveled, 2 of the leadership from regional. So that was really great for the kids too, to have people who came here just to see them talk about their project. And parents came, and that was really good for the parents too, I think, because they didn't know what we were doing for the whole club,
But you and the students didn't have to travel to regional, and there were no costs associated with team travel.
No costs associated because we didn't get the regional prize, so we didn't. But even if you win the regional level, I believe there's money set aside to help the team or a portion of the team travel to the conference.
I think in the past, the Alaska chapter has had in their budget some money set aside to help the SchoolsNEXT team travel in the past. You know that. That's true.
Great. Well, we're just almost to noon. I guess we still have time, but if there's no more questions, we don't have to hang out.
All right. Well, let's see. That game that you had, game plan.
Oh yeah.
Is that something that other people can get a hold of and use as part of their curriculum, or?
Yeah, I'd be happy to share game plan. It's you might say it's in the beta version, but it's a very simple idea. It's actually pretty fun. So that's something I could email someone the files. It's just to plot out the poster and then there's some pieces that are color-coded by size, and you move those around, and you just need a die to roll the die. So it's really easy to play.
Well, your contact information is up there on the screen if anyone is watching this, or this is also being recorded and available at our April Rally website here in a week or two when we get it posted. So if you are listening to the recorded version, you can all hear it.
Yep, yeah, feel free to email me at my address there, and if you have any further questions or want me to help you connect with the Alaska chapter of A4LE. And thanks, Craig, for the opportunity to share this stuff. It's a really cool program. Oh, we got one more. Scott, what subject teacher might be the best to lead the team? That's a good question. I think you're right. Science teachers, I believe, in the Anchorage School District do the, there's a 6th grade structures curriculum that I've seen that might be a good fit for this. Yeah, it's probably science teachers would be the closest fit. Certainly at Stream, the science teacher was really interested in what we were doing and encouraging. So.
But any teacher could.
Any teacher could, yeah.
Who's excited about this.
Mm-hmm.
And that is always, with most of these programs, that is one of the harder things to capture to get these programs started is a teacher to champion the program in the school. That's typically the hardest first step is.
It is, yeah. But if you're willing to give a little extra time and organization, I think a lot of principals would welcome something like a club, an after-school club. And they might be able to align you. If you start early enough, you start now talking to the school about next fall, you probably get more opportunities for collaboration with the school.
Well, if there are no other questions, I guess we can wrap this up. As noted up there, Garrett's contact information is up there. If you have more questions, feel free to reach out to him. There is also, earlier in the program, there is the link to the A4LE main website about this program. You can learn more about it. We do have some more webinars coming up for everybody. Next month, June 5th, Dale Smythe with Bettisworth North is going to give a presentation, him and his design team, about Nunam Ikwa. And it is a school building, and the presentation is as an Arctic issue, building schools on ice, a long-term relationship with a passive-aggressive foundation cooling system and the repair of a water line. What the future may hold for Alaska schools built on marginal permafrost. So that is one that all of us Alaskan and Canadians with our melting permafrost, this is something we're probably going to end up getting more into, is failing foundations because of the foundations are melting away. So tune in. We'll get the information out on that to everybody for June 5th of this year. So thanks again to Garrett and to McCool Carlson Green for hosting this presentation, and we will be in touch. Thank you very much.